It has never been more clear for the Philadelphia Eagles as we finally have our answer about what to expect from the wide receiver room for the 2026 season. And we'll discuss what this room brings and if we can be satisfied with how it shapes up under new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. And we'll discuss all of this when it comes to the Eagles wide receivers who are going to be locks on this team to make the roster, who is on the bubble, and we'll also just say, we'll ask the question, do we trust this wide receiver room without a true alpha that we know at this point in time? What's going on, guys? Alex Brooks back here with another episode of Eagles Digest. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. And before we get into the episode about the Eagles wide receiver room, make sure you guys are subscribed to Eagles Digest. We really appreciate all of the support. We're less than 100 subscribers away from 2,500 on the channel. We have daily videos every single day of the week. We're also going to have some great stuff moving into this 2026 season. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss out on any content that we bring here on Eagles Digest. But getting into this episode, as we are going to talk about the projected wide receiver room via Tim McManus, as he had this to say about who he feels that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have on their roster. Now, we're going into the third preseason game, and a lot of things could change at this point in time. Howie Roseman could make a move for another wide receiver, but where this is at this point in time is where we're looking at right now. DeVonta Smith, Makai Lemon, Dontavian Wicks, Hollywood Brown, Darius Cooper, and Elijah Moore. And he says that Johnny Wilson and Britton Covey are left out of the mix. Now, when you look at all of these wide receivers, this is a very different wide receiver room than we've seen in years past. There's a lot more guys who have different skill sets. I mentioned on multiple videos here on Eagles Digest about what the skill sets are for Smith, Lemon, Wicks, and Hollywood Brown. But you also got to remember that Darius Cooper and Elijah Moore, they're guys who are trying to make strides to get on this roster and make some plays and make sure that, if their opportunity comes, that they are ready for it. Now, when we look at just some of the guys that when we take a look at just all of these wide receivers, there is a little bit of an issue that I really want to bring up that could be very a little concerning when going up against very good good and great corners on these defenses that the Eagles have to face, and that is that none of these wide receivers are over 6'1". Now, with trading away AJ Brown, the Eagles now, when they were getting, their other wide receivers in Wicks and Makai Lemon, there's a lot of these wide receivers who do not have over 6'1". Now there's Johnny Wilson that we mentioned that, he's on the IR right now. He is dealing with an injury, another injury. So, not really counting him in the mix for the wide receivers. So when you're looking at how the Eagles are looking at their wide receiver room, it's very small. The guys are, they have different types of skill sets. I know DeVonta Smith, he plays, above the rim. He plays, bigger than his size. But when we look at guys who are just going to completely moss people, that's not what really we're going to expect from this Sean Mannion offense based on the wide receivers in this offense. When we kind of just look at what the Eagles are going to try to pride themselves on is getting out in open space and really taking advantage of the downfield action as well as short pickups. I think that guys like when we talk about Dontavian Wicks, I think he can do really good curl routes. Devontae Smith as well. He's able to do really good running after the catch. So I think, yards after catch is going to be a huge emphasis in this new offense, but also just getting guys in space for the deep ball that Jalen Hurts always loves to, go with as a little bit more of his security blanket, knowing that you have a lot of speed guys, including Hollywood Brown. Now, when you're looking at how this can be a little bit concerning, you may think, the Eagles do have, not have that wide receiver like they did in AJ Brown. But I also think that that's not a bad thing because you still have Dallas Goddard on your team. You still have your tight end that you can go to as your, security blanket that you used. used last year in multiple, instances in the red zone. I mean, Dallas Goedert had 12 touchdowns last year. I mean, he was absolutely on fire, and using him in the red zone is something that I think the Eagles are going to push on moving forward in this 2026 season. But there's definitely some, it could be a little bit of a concern, but right now I'm not really, worried about any guy who's going to be, taller than 6'1". If they're playing above the rim like I'm looking at right now, and if they're getting out in space, that is much better than just having someone who is just, going to one-on-one, another opposite corner. I'm thinking about over the middle. I'm thinking about getting this Eagles offense down the field, and something really needs to change with the personnel, and that's why they hired Sean Mannion, and that's why they got these guys in Philadelphia. But looking at the locks of this Eagles roster that I was, going to talk about, these are the guys that I feel like are locks to make this Eagles roster. And it includes DeVonta Smith, Makai Lemon, Dontavian Wicks, and Hollywood Brown. No surprise here that all four of these guys are going to have impacts in this Eagles roster from day one. Makai Lemon is now back on the practice field. DeVonta Smith's back on the practice field. So now all of these wide receivers are healthy at this point, knock on wood. So Smith, Lemon, Wicks, and Brown, I think those are the guys who I think Sean Mannion is going to try to feature the most. And I think when you're looking at how all of these guys can really make that impact, is when you look at Lemon, he's the guy who's going to get down the field and in space over the middle of the field. And then Dontavian Wicks is going to be your outside guy to try and get yardage down the field and really be a really good route runner. Then you obviously have DeVonta Smith as the wide receiver one. So I think that these four are going to have, major success in this new offense because it is much more, friendly to the quarterback and the offensive line to just get nice, short, quick throws to try and move the chains. Now, guys who I think are going to be on the bubble. These are guys who I think could make the roster or could not make the roster. Elijah Moore, Darius Cooper, Johnny Wilson, and Britton Covey. Now, I included Johnny Wilson there because he does have an IR designation, so they may just keep him on there, on their practice squad or whatever. But the active roster, I think when you're looking at all four of these guys, I still think Britton Covey has a chance to make this roster as a good punt returner, as well as someone who you could throw in this Eagles offense, as we saw with the New England Patriots game, as he was able to get a touchdown and having, really good success with those screen game that we saw in week 2 of the preseason. So I still think Britton Covey is someone who I really think could get on this active roster. And then that leaves Elijah Moore and Darius Cooper. One of those guys may be on this roster, may not be. If I'm going to say who I think is going to make it, I would take Darius Cooper over Elijah Moore, just seeing more out of Darius Cooper during this training camp than Moore. But I think that you can't go wrong with including both of those guys on that team. So I feel like with Elijah Moore, Darius Cooper, Johnny Wilson, and Britton Covey, I think Wilson is the odd man out, but I still believe that Britton Covey is going to be on this roster, fielding punts and being very impactful on the special teams. Now, let me know down in the comments what you guys feel of this wide receiver room. Do you trust this wide receiver room at this point in time? Type Y for yes and type N for no, because there may be a trade that we are not even thinking right now, because Kayshon Boutte just got traded to the Houston Texans. The Eagles may be wanting to upgrade a little bit at getting someone who has a lot of size here, as Howie Roseman is always working the phone. So let me know down in the comments if you trust this wide receiver room, and if not, let me know what you feel the Eagles need to do to add some height to this room. So, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. We're going to have more coverage when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles and everything throughout this week. So, make sure you guys stay tuned for all of that. And as always, go Birds.